Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1692. This watch is available from Pagani Design Global AliExpress store for €113. It's also available from Benyo store on Amazon.com for $140. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this familiar black cardboard Pagani Design watch box, and the watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel in the base, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch from any damage in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only €113. With regards to the other items, this is the plastic guarantee card that comes with the watch, and I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by the usual 12-month international guarantee. This is the owner's instruction manual. Although basic, it does suffice in explaining the operation of the movement use, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. This is the branded microfiber polishing cloth that comes with the watch, and I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. This is the plastic tag. And lastly, as an alternative to the oyster style bracelet that comes on the watch, one also gets this Zulu strap. So the stainless steel hardware is PVD black coated, as you can see, and the Zulu keepers are stitched either side to prevent them sliding out of position. Good heavy thickness to the fabric, which feels like ballistic nylon. Plenty of holes in the strap to allow for fine tuning the length. The end of the strap is welded to prevent it fraying, and around the holes is also welded. So it's a good quality strap, and I like the heavy fabric and the woven material, and it's nice to get this included with the watch if the bracelet isn't your personal taste. So firstly, I'll give you the background to the Pagani Design PD-1692. I gave Pagani Design the idea for this watch, and back in February 2021 I created it by modifying a Blyger PA21 Explorer with a PD-1661 dial, handset and movement. And then I showed the watch to Pagani Design and they liked it, but at that time they weren't ready to put the watch into production because they were making an Aquaterra homage. Now I'm pleased to report that they have finally produced the watch in this PD-1692, and I've previously reviewed the white dial version and it's available in several dial colour options, but this blue sunburst dial version is my personal favourite. So with regards to the dimensions, it's a 39.7mm case diameter, it's a 49mm lug to lug measurement, we have a thickness of 11.4mm and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the flip lock clasp, and as you can see, the flip lock clasp is assigned to a high standard with Pagani Design engraved. Beautiful lustre to the 316L grade stainless steel, finished to a good standard, no sharp edges, no burrs, there aren't any sharp corners, and the flanks to the flip lock clasp are mirror polished to a high standard. So I'll show you the interior to it. Solid milled 316L grade stainless steel, as one would expect, matte blasted effect to the centre section, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks. Now this has an Easy Link style extension which adds 5mm of on the fly adjustment as an alternative to a glide lock mechanism. The Easy Link style extension in this one is very stiff. It does deploy with a positive click and it does click back into the body of the clasp, but it does have a lot of friction and a lot of resistance, so there's room for improvement on it, although it does work to a satisfactory standard. However, I'm pleased that they haven't used the abhorrent pressed metal version of their diver's extension links, as per the watch I previously reviewed, the PD-1694, because that is a clear cost-cutting measure. So I like these solid milled Easy Link style extensions. They are better than the pressed metal stainless steel diver's extensions they're using on other models. So nice positive click to the flip lock, it closes well, nice positive click to the flip lock itself. So this one is one of their better executed clasps, the finishing is good quality. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal. Now the negative of the flat sapphire crystal is there is no AR coating on the underside. This would really benefit from clear AR coating. As you can see, the silver applied indices and the mirror polished Mercedes hands are highly reflective, as is the underside of the flat sapphire crystal. There's a lot of glare and it is highly reflective, so it really does need clear anti-reflective coating. However, it's very aesthetically pleasing because we've got a nice beveled edge to it which projects above the mirror polished bezel, as you can see, and I like the way the edge of the crystal catches the light. It's very beautiful to look at. So it's a disappointment that it doesn't have clear AR coating, because as you can see it's very shiny and very glossy, and I really think that collectors would happily pay an extra €5 to €10 on the retail price of €113 if the watch had AR coating, because it really would be a notable enhancement. With regards to the finishing to the head of the piece, flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, which contrasts with the brushed satin finishing to the tops of the lugs, flawless mirror polishing to the stainless steel bezel. So it's a very well finished head of the piece, and I really think that Pagani Design deserve full credit, because this is a low tier piece at only €113. With regards to the crown, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished domed cap embossed with the Pagani Design brand emblem to a high standard, coin edge finished. So let's test the crown action. Absolutely silky smooth. This is something that Pagani Design do very well and they deserve full credit for. They make very good quality screw down stainless steel crowns. The threading feels silky smooth, and there's a good interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So the screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is very impressive, bearing in mind that this is a daily wear piece, it's not a dive piece. In the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Seiko NH35A automatic to top up the power reserve to its maximum 40 hours. Absolute pleasure to manually wind it. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication position. Rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set, as you can see, and it works very well. It's a characteristic of the NH35A I like that the date complication has a nice positive click. Each day of the month clicks over with a good positive click, and I like that positive indexing. It's an absolute pleasure to use the quick set complication. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and as you can see I have now hacked the second hand. It is possible to hack the movement and set the time precisely to the second. Nice light resistance to the NH35A, silky smooth, the gearing feels solid, no backplay whatsoever, so it's an absolute pleasure to set the time. Pushing it back in restarts the movement, and as you can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is outstanding screw down crown execution. It's something that Pagani Design deserve credit for, because they do it very well, even though that this is a low tier price point piece at €113. It's very good quality screw down crown action. It feels smooth, the threads pick up immediately, and I really like the screw down crown on Pagani Design watches. So I'll show you the case back. It's solid 316L grade stainless steel, and as you can see it has another one of Pagani Design's artistic designs. Personally I dislike this. I would prefer if Pagani Design just embossed or engraved their emblem and also the Pagani Design logo in the centre of the case back, rather than these artistic designs. As you can see, this one has mountains on it, and we also have the Pagani Design brand emblem. So it's finished to a high standard and it's relatively low profile, so it's very comfortable against the wrist when wearing the piece for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Concentric brushed satin finishing to the outer section, and the circumference is mirror polished with milled slots, so the finishing is very good, and they deserve credit for it because they have done a very good job of the embossing and also engraving the specification of the piece around the circumference. So it's a very well made screw down stainless steel case back which provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. The end links are a good tight fit to the case, they're finished to an acceptable standard, and the finishing to the underside of the head of the piece is excellent. So I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelets, I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box and I'm pleased to report it will easily fit my 8-inch wrist. This would actually fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist with no difficulty whatsoever. So in the absence of a glide lock mechanism, this has a 5mm EasyLink style extension, as I've discussed, but there's also 3 dimples in the body of the clasp either side, so one can deploy the EasyLink style extension and flip it over, and that gives access to the spring bar, and then one can move the end of the bracelet and the EasyLink style extension in or out by 3 notches. This is on the outer of 3, which is its absolute maximum extension. So this will easily fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist. The proportions of the oyster style bracelet are done to perfection. It tapers from 20mm down to the flip block, and it perfectly balances the flip block. The proportions of the flip block clasp are done very well. Now, with regards to the proportions of the head of the piece, 49mm lug to lug measurement really is very close to perfection. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot, regardless of whether you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. So at 49, it is very close to perfection, and it does give a very snug fit to the wrist due to the curved profile of the underside of the case. It wraps around the wrist very well. Now, the other thing I like is the 20mm lug width perfectly balances the 39.7mm head of the piece. At 39.7, it does wear very like a 40mm, so this will be suitable if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, and also suitable if you have a 7 to 8-inch wrist. Feels very comfortable with the flat screw down stainless steel case back, and it's incredibly well balanced. The bracelet perfectly balances the head of the piece. Very aesthetically pleasing looking piece with a mirror polished bezel, and as I've discussed, one of my favourite aspects is the bevel of the edge of the flat sapphire crystal projecting above the mirror polished bezel, because as you can see, it catches the light and it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. The blue sunburst style is very interesting because it changes from a navy blue in low light conditions to a more electric blue in direct light or sunlight, and I like that characteristic of the blue sunburst style. The date complication is clearly legible because we have a white date wheel with contrasting black Arabic numerals. So the dial layout is very similar to the PD-1691, which is the classic Submariner date dial layout, and I really like it. They've got the proportions of the hands correct. As you can see, the minute hand is well proportioned. It nearly extends to the chapter ring, which is indexed with 60-minute ticks. The second hand also nearly extends to the index chapter ring. So the proportions of the hands are very good for the size of the dial. Clearly legible. I like the symmetry of the dial and the date complication cited at 3. Also like the fact the dial isn't over-branded with unnecessary text or specification. It simply says automatic at 6 o'clock, water resistant, and 20 bar/200 meters. Just the right amount of information. So this blue sunburst dial really is my personal favourite. I previously reviewed the white dial version, which I also like, but I really like the characteristic of the blue sunburst dial, the way it changes colour in the light. It's just a shame that it doesn't have AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal, as I've discussed. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it uses blue Luminova. I really would like to see Pagani Design upgrade the blue Luminova they're using to BGW9 Super Luminova, which would glow brighter blue, and it would also glow for a longer length of time. This Luminova is acceptable performance, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at €113, but there really is room for improvement. The colour tone is well matched between the Mercedes hands and the silver applied indices, so they have got the colour tone correct, and it's something that Pagani Design often don't get correct. Often there's a mismatch in the colour of the applied indices the Lume used, and also the colour of the Lume used on the Mercedes hands. For example, I've previously reviewed the PD-1694, and that used a different colour blue tone Lume on the Lume ceramic bezel insert to the dial and hands, which were green. So I'm pleased that the colour tone match is very good. It's the same colour blue on the dial and hands. It's continuing to glow for a reasonable length of time, and it is reasonably bright. So I would describe it as better quality Lume than on the PD-1692 or the PD-1661, which you'll be familiar with. But however, there's still room for improvement. It's not as good as BGW9 Super Luminova. I think the blue Luminova they're using is better grade, it's better quality than the green Luminova they're using, and I think of the two, this is the better version, so I think it's okay. but room for improvement. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko NH35A Automatic. It has 24 joules and it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, 40-hour power reserve, which is perfectly acceptable, and it has a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds per day. So a rather wide accuracy range. However, this one is very well regulated and it's running consistently at +6 seconds per day, which is very good for an NH35A. I think it's the correct choice of movement. The NH35A is a personal favourite of mine. It's reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. I like the fact it's got hand winding and hacking. The hacking in particular is very good because the Miyota 8215, which Pagani design previously used in other models such as the PD-1691, when there was a shortage of NH35As, that doesn't have hacking. It also has a noisy rotor and it's unidirectional winding rather than bidirectional, so it's less efficient. So the NH35A is a higher grade of movement than the Miyota 8215, and I'm glad to see them using it in the PD-1692. For example, they could have used the cost-cutting measure of using the 8215 in this piece, but then it wouldn't have had hacking. The NH35A does have hacking, so it's very good. The only thing I would like to see them improve upon is I think it would look better if they deleted the date complication and did a no-date version using the Seiko NH38, because that would add to the symmetry of the dial layout. But it's subjective. Some collectors like the practicality of having a date complication. I like both. I like the no date dial version and also I like this date complication version. But of the two, I would prefer it to have a no date dial as per the Tudor Black Bay 41, for example, and the NH38 would mean that it wouldn't have a phantom date setting position. But this does have a date, and the NH35A is the correct choice for a date complication piece. So I really like it. Now, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So really, to evaluate this piece, I need to study the finishing to the bracelet, because I previously reviewed the PD-1694 and I was very impressed with the quality of the rivet link bracelet. It was one of the better oyster style bracelets that Pagani design are using. This one is also better quality than some other Pagani design bracelets I've seen. Now, there is still some play in the end link pin, as you can see, which is disappointing. There is room for improvement, but however, the fit of the end links to the head of the piece is very tight. There's no play, so that's good. And the curved profile to the end links matches the case. It's done very well on both sides of the head of the piece. So the fit of the end links to the case is good on this. There is some slight play in the end link, as you can see, and there is also some slight play in the screw pins in the bracelet, but it is acceptable, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece. One has to expect some cost cutting measures. With regards to the finishing, there's no sharp edges, no burrs. The quality of the brushed satin finishing is good, beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel, and the mirror polishing to the flanks is done to a high standard. It is flawless, and I'm pleased to see screw pins used rather than push pins, which would be a cost-cutting measure. The quality of the finishing to the clasp is good. No sharp edges, no burrs, no sharp points on the corners. The flip lock is well finished, and I'm pleased to see the 5mm EasyLink style extension with a solid milled extension rather than the abhorrent pressed stainless steel clasp they're using on other models such as the PD-1694 I previously reviewed. So overall, the bracelet is acceptable. There is room for improvement on it. They could reduce the amount of play, but it is finished very nicely and the end links are very good. So yes, it is excellent quality, and yes, it is excellent value at €113. If you're looking for a daily wear piece, this is it, because it has a date complication, hand binding and hacking, 200 meters of water resistance is very strong specification, silky smooth crown execution. So it's a very comfortable piece to wear. The feel good factor is good, the comfort level is good. Really, the main negatives to this watch are the lack of AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal and the weak quality blue Lume used, but these are things one has to bear in mind. There are going to be some cost-cutting measures at €113, so I think it's acceptable bearing in mind the price point. So I really like the watch overall, and I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani design PD-1692. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.